Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Mike, let's start with the injury report, okay? Because both teams, it is long and it is significant. Let me just leave this kind of open-ended. First with the Saints and then with the Bucs. Which is the most significant news as you see it related to the injuries this week?
Well, obviously, from the Saints standpoint, it's Alvin Kamara, and he was not practicing today, and that's definitely concerning. I don't know if he tried to give it a go yesterday and it didn't feel right, or if he was out there for a little early week show. I don't know. But when a guy's not practicing on Thursday, it's a reason for concern. So we'll know a lot more tomorrow on him. And you know, the reports don't sound great on the flip side about Chris Godwin. And you know, so I guess that's a fair trade-off in some ways. But what's really interesting if Chris Godwin doesn't play is that would be the ultimate test to find out how much the Saints are going to miss C.J. Gardner-Johnson because he's had a lot of success against Chris Godwin and the Bucs in general in the past. And so if they were facing a healthy 100% Chris Godwin, we would be able to see how much they missed him in that matchup. But this game might not have C.J. or Chris Godwin. So, you know, it might just be an all-new type of matchup entirely.
Mike, it's not just Chris Godwin, who I think I don't expect to play. It sounds like he's going to miss weeks. But
Right.
Julio hasn't practiced this week. Mike Evans didn't practice today. Russell Gage didn't practice Wednesday, then was limited on Thursday. Who is Tom Brady going to throw the ball to? I mean, this has to be shifting to a massive advantage for New Orleans in the secondary.
The 2021 Saints don't want to hear that list of people that might be out or limited.
Fair enough.
He's got a lot to choose from if he just gets one or two of those guys. But no, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm not familiar enough with their injury report patterns to know how normal it is for guys to miss time as much as they've already missed. I think obviously we'll have a much better feel tomorrow, but it sounds like a lot of those guys are going to be listed as questionable, and the coach will probably say, oh, we won't know until we get them on the field and test them out game time. So it's a great question. I mean, it would certainly benefit the Saints if all four of those receivers were somehow out or limited, but I would imagine they're going to have at least two of them, if not three.
Do you expect Latavius Murray to play on Sunday?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
He could theoretically be active, but he wasn't with a team during OTAs and minicamp. This wasn't a situation where he got cut or in training camp. He didn't get cut by another team in training camp. I think he's a veteran. He obviously knows this offense. So I guess he could come right in and play, but I'd be pretty surprised, even if Alvin Kamara doesn't play, for him to leapfrog Mark Ingram, Tony Jones Jr., and even Dwayne Washington for like significant touches. But they might want to have him active for the depth and the security, but I'd be surprised if he plays significantly, if at all.
Okay. I'd be curious if Kamara, because it feels like the signing was a safety net in case Alvin's not ready to go on Sunday. If he's not, then play that hypothetical. How do they handle the running back position?
Well, it was good to see Mark Ingram back out there today. He's also listed as limited. Yesterday, he was not doing. He was off to the side when we were watching today. He was with the team, so hopefully he's all right. I mean, obviously, if there were no injury concerns with Mark Ingram, I'd expect him to get 20 touches. I mean, that is the one good thing about Ingram is he's an every down guy if you have to go to a backup, and he's done that. He had 200-yard rushing games or 200 yards from scrimmage games last year when Kamara didn't play. So as much as Ingram could handle, that's the answer. I think the next in line would be Tony Jones Jr., getting a little bit of the work. And then, like I said, Dwayne Washington, he made a case for being a little bit more part of the offense in training camp, and obviously had that breaking case of emergency game where he had over 100 yards rushing in the second half a few years back. So they've got guys who can go in. I mean, maybe Murray would be the guy, especially if Kamara and Ingram both were hurt. but I think it would take a couple of injuries to see him play a significant role first week with a team in 2022.
He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett, neworleans.football. Mike, how do the Saints own Tampa Bay?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's unbelievable.
I mean, I understand how the Patriots owned the Jets for so long. I get that. This I don't get.
Well, all right. So in its simplest form, it's funny because obviously everybody's been asked it over and over again. And Dennis Allen plays things close to the vest, and he says nothing we've done in the past will automatically carry over. But I did say, all right, giving away no top secret information, just theoretically in general, what does any team have to do against Tom Brady, because you're not going to surprise him or confuse him? What is the secret for any team going against a quarterback like that? And he said you have to disrupt his timing, and that can be done in two ways. That can be done by affecting him with the rush, and certainly, we've always heard people say if you can get pressure on Tom Brady up the middle, that helps. And the Saints have done a good job of that, and they've particularly done a good job of that with just a four-man rush, which is great. You don't have to send extra guys in to blitz. It's not like the blitz is going to make him panic anyway. And then you have to match up well against the receivers and disrupt their timing in their routes. And the Saints have physical defensive backs who are good in man coverage. But Marshawn Lattimore has obviously been outstanding against Mike Evans for years. Like I said, C.J. Gardner-Johnson had some good matchups against Chris Godwin, and whoever that second cornerback has been, Janoris Jenkins or Paulson Debo, has done a good job with the next guy. That's what Malcolm Jenkins explained too. He said they just have always matched up well against the Buccaneers even before Tom Brady got there. Those one-on-one matchups in the secondary. So that is the huge question mark, obviously, is if Paulson Adebo doesn't play, which it doesn't look like he's going to play at this point, then four of the top five defensive backs, when the Saints are in their nickel package, are going to be four guys that weren't in their top five last year or the year before that. And so we'll have to see if it can carry over with almost completely different personnel in the secondary outside of Marshawn Lattimore.
Jameis against Tampa. I mean, it's been 3 years. Does that storyline still play?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think the most open Jameis ever was about it was on this podcast with Mark Ingram and Kim Jordan last week, where they kind of got him in a relaxed mood, and obviously they have a lot of fun with that podcast. And he opened up about it a little. He started by saying, I don't want to talk about Tampa and Tom Brady, but he admitted. He said he was actually very happy for those guys when they won the Super Bowl, and they're his friends and they're his teammates. But he wanted that to be him. And watching them, say they needed a different quarterback and they needed to go get the GOAT to go win one with, obviously that hurts. There's no question that Jameis wants to have his own success, and that he wants to be better than the team that got rid of him. There's no way that doesn't motivate him, even though it's been a couple of years.
Yeah. How do you think Jameis did week one against Atlanta, where, I mean, look, Mike, we all watched it. They sucked for 3 quarters and then caught fire.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously you can't give one answer that encompasses that whole game because it went from nightmare to dream. I mean, it was one of his worst halves and maybe his best half as a Saint. So I think, and not just kissing up to him because I went to work with him, but I thought Nick Under had a really smart take after the game, which is the Saints now have the offensive firepower to come back in a game like that. Maybe they'll never be down 16 again all season, but their game is not over when they're down by 16 because they now have Jameis who can hit Jarvis Landry down the field, Michael Thomas down the field, Chris Olave on the 2-point conversion. I mean, it's really exciting to know that even if they only play one quarter of good football on offense, that could be enough to score 3 times. And that is something this team absolutely did not have last year. But, yeah, obviously we're going to need to see more consistency. I thought some of those sacks were Jameis Winston's fault. I thought he held onto the ball a little bit too long. I think there were a couple times where it looked like he wasn't finding what he wanted to see, and we can't say for sure if a guy was open and he missed him, or the guys weren't getting open, or if the protection issues were coming as a surprise to him and the pressure was coming from places he didn't expect. But he definitely did not find what he was looking for in that first half, and I think that's going to come from him getting more comfortable after so much time off. And what I said at halftime and what played out a little bit is I think Pete Carmichael is probably going to pretty shrewdly design plays that are designed to get the ball out of his hands a little bit quicker so he can find a rhythm.
Does the offensive line stink?
Not necessarily, Jace, just on that game because, I think some of the plays that got blown up the worst were when there was an unblocked blitzer that they just didn't account for. And, of course, that's partially the fault of the offensive line. They need to pick those up and figure it out. But Pete Carmichael said the coaches were to blame for part of that. He said one time the quarterback held on the ball too long, one time a running back didn't pick up the blitz. So it's not just 4 sacks means offensive line bad, but Grady Jarrett sure had a field day in some of those one-on-one matchups against the guards who we were hoping to see vast improvement from. So they're going to need to be better. There's no doubt about it.
The other concern, obviously, was the defense, which struggled to contain Marcus Mariota and the Falcons. Do they stink?
No, and that one I'm even more willing to chalk up as an anomaly because they obviously had a very, sit back and try to just rope off Marcus Mariota game plan. I believe they did not blitz once in that game. And decided, the best way to make sure, let's make Mariota beat us by throwing and not let him get free around the edges with this read option. Unfortunately, their run defense suffered as a result of whatever they were doing. So it just didn't work. It's a game plan that didn't work, but it's not a game plan they're going to use every week. So this week I'm concerned. I want to find out how good the secondary is, but I'm pretty confident that we're going to see the front seven is almost all the same people we've seen for multiple years here, and I'm pretty confident they know how to stop the run a lot better than what we saw the other day.
I hope you know I'm just asking very obvious, direct questions.
No,
to find what you say. But Will Lutz, he doinked one, and then he hit the game winner from 51. So which is the real Will Lutz, the doink or the game winner?
Well, the fact that the game winner came with all the pressure in the world after he had a doink in the memory bank probably answers your question for you right there. I mean, nobody makes them all, and it wasn't even really an ugly miss. So the fear, I think, when he missed that first one was, oh, no, this guy missed a whole year, and then he comes out and misses his first kick of the season. Will this get in his head? I think making the 2 clutch field goals from a long way away in the second half kind of erases any fear that he's going to have a mental block. And physically, we know how good he is as a kicker.
It's a reminder, that's the guy who set the NFL record for most consecutive field goals on the road, most consecutive makes on the road back in 2019. So,
he's really good.
Yeah.
He's really good, and you could directly say that if they had him last year, they make the playoffs.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
You could say it as a fact, like almost an unquestioned fact.
I mean, it was was it the Tennessee game or Washington? Which one am I confusing? Or maybe both. They were pretty bad in both of them.
There were 3 games where you theoretically could have said, it changed. But the Tennessee one was the most direct, I believe. But you're right. There was a point where a cleaner kicking operation could have swung 3 games early in the year. By the second half of the year, it wasn't coming down to kickers anymore.
He's Mike Triplett. He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett. neworleans.football. And I saw on your Twitter there's a promo code, right, for neworleans.football trip. Is that it?
Take advantage of the all the excitement being generated by the hiring and the free agent signing. And,
the free agent, I love it.
Hop on. How about look? Anybody who signs up using the code TRIP has to directly reflect on that's just an ego stroke with each submit. So I'm all for it.
All right, use the promo code TRIP, TRIP. Mike Triplett from neworleans.football. All right, man, congrats again. Great to chat as always. We'll visit next week.
All right, thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.